मीटिंग है बेटा।
डैडी तो अपने ओवर बिजी है भाई दे। डैडी जी को तो पुस्तक ना दे बोले।
एक वो है वेबिनार है बेटा,
जो इन्होंने अपना किया है वो उसी के अटेंड करते रहते हैं। कभी वेबिनार होता है, कभी कोई चलता है, कभी कोई ट्रेनिंग चल रही होती है, बस इसी में लगे रहते हैं। उसको अनिल जी जोड़ लेंगे।
Thank you. Namaste. Namaste to all. Good evening to all.
Namaste.
Good evening, Anil sir.
Good evening, ji.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir. Arvind ji, we'll start our session in next 5 minutes.
Madam, respectfully, when person of the stature of Anil sir can be in time, why can't we start the meeting in time?
Yes, that's what.
मदान साहब भी आ गए अब तो, मनोज जी भी आ गए।
हाँ,
सर नमस्कार नमस्कार नमस्कार।
प्रवीण जैन जी तो पहले से ही हैं।
नमस्कार।
नमस्कार मदान सर नमस्कार।
अब सबका हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव तो ये होता है ना कि हम जो भी बोले वो सब ज्यादा से ज्यादा सुने। तो रश्मि जी का जो ऑब्जेक्टिव था कि थोड़ा और वेट कर लेते हैं, तो वो सिर्फ इसलिए था कि चलिए ज्यादा लोग होंगे तो हमें भी मजा आएगा, हम अकेले कंप्यूटर के साथ क्यों बातें करें।
सर नमस्कार सबको।
नमस्कार प्रवीण जी, नमस्कार।
तो कोई नहीं अनिल जी, थोड़े रिचुअल्स होते हैं तब तक रिचुअल्स कर लेंगे।
बिल्कुल ठीक है, करिए जी, करिए, शुरू करिए।
एक्चुअली हम लोग स्टार्ट कर लेते हैं, तब बाकी लोग ज्वाइन करेंगे, तो फिर उसके बाद ये करते हैं।
यस प्लीज।
वीके गुप्ता जी भी आ गए।
हाँ। I, Rashmi Chowcharia, Chartered Accountant and IP from Kolkata, on behalf of JIPA Professional Association, welcomes you all in this webinar, which will be a session on discussion on recent amendments in IBBI regulations. As we all are aware, IBBI has come out with so much of amendment in recent times. The regulations include IBBI IP regulations 2016, which proposes changes in fee structure to be paid to IBBI and the timeline change. Then there are CIP regulations amendment up to 20th September 22, which includes a fees payable to different regulations. As per different regulations, there are some changes in that. And there are circulars which has come new circulars detailing the matters pending with Supreme Court, for which IP has to do some if they stay on some matters, then they have to file some forms, I believe. And then there are some Supreme Court judgments. So this seminar is a need of the hour. I believe many seminars have been conducted by different associations on this, but this is JIPA's again an effort to brief all the members. And I'm so grateful that we have so eminent speakers like Madan sir, Anil ji here in this panel, who will also once again take to the quite intricacies of the same. So thanks for, I thank JIPA Association, Parveen ji, for organizing this seminar. And without wasting much of the time, I now invite Parveen ji to say a few words and introduce the guest of honors.
Thank you to all. And I welcome to Shri Virender Gupta ji and CS and IP Devranjan Raman ji, President Resolve Insolvency Professional Association, and CA and IP Anil ji, Goyal ji, and Advocate and IP GP Madan sir, C and IP Madhusudan Rao, and our eminent moderator Rashmi ji, and Devesh ji, and also Manoj Kumar Anand ji, and all participants. This webinar is important for the point of view of recent amendments, and especially for insolvency professionals. How they will see their future as an individual professional or as a partner or director in IP, jurist IP, basically. Not wasting much of time, I will request to CS and CA Virender Gupta ji, if available, to proceed and guide us.
Yes.
Virender Gupta ji.
Yes.
Sir.
Welcome to all, and I again feel privileged to be part of this process. And though it is more concerned on the execution side, but as far as my experience goes, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir.
So, Mr. Anilji, hope you have recovered from your dental surgery.
Yes, yes, I have recovered from my dental surgery. It was a major dental surgery, so I was not able to speak for about 2 days, but then now I'm okay. Still, painkillers and antibiotics are continuing.
Great, great. So what has happened after the implementation of the IBC and promulgation, this is all based upon the experience, whatever attempts are being made to make it more effective and to achieve the preamble objectives of the IBC. A lot of efforts are being made, and I feel that under the new regime in IBBI, there is the process and speed has become a hallmark. And the way they are tackling the gaps, filling up the gaps, would go in a long way to resolve the pending issues to large extent. And the only issue sometimes comes when IBBI is making regulations which even go beyond the mandate of the substantive provisions of law. So that is the issue sometimes which has to be resolved. Though the Supreme Court, wherever this aspect has been challenged in general, has supported the government and upheld the regulations. So that is the I think, unlike the provisions of section 469(2) of Companies Act, some more power is to be given to IBBI, so that tomorrow the constitutionality of any regulation may not become a subject matter of null and void. That's the only area which the government has to change in 239 and 240 of the sections of IBC. With that, I would open the forum to eminent speakers like Anil ji and Madan ji, so that we all can have the benefit of that. Am I audible?
Yes, yes,
Yes, sir.
sir.
So
Yes, sir.
with that, I would again, whenever the specific regulations come, we can have a discussion on that if the questions are there. So I think now let us open the session. Mr. Jain, you can take it further from me from this place.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. And it is in fact a kind of honor of all of us that you are here and you could spare some time to join this session of professionals. I think, Rashmi, you can take it forward and you can go
Yes,
to the
sir.
next item. And in between, when we will speak, in between, wherever we will find that we have to take the, as we normally say, final word, and we will take the final word from Gupta sir.
Yes, sir. Yes. Parveenji, Manoj is also here. So now I will ask Parveenji to invite Mr. Raman, Devarajan Raman.
Rashmi, please carry on. There are some calls from participants. So,
Okay, fine. I now invite CS and IP Devarajan Raman to say a few words.
Oh, I just intermingled a little bit. Mr. Raman,
Fine.
let him.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. And it's respected ex-honorable member of NCLT, Mr. Virendra Gupta, the guest of honor, eminent speakers, Mr. Anil Goyal, Mr. GP Madan, Mr. Madhusudan Rao, and the chairman of JIPA, Mr. Praveen Jain, and vice chairman Manoj Kumar Anand. Very good evening to all of you. And I am honored that I've been invited by JIPA to be a guest of honor. Now, this I see as a harbinger of more interaction between professional associations of IPs. And definitely we collectively can work towards strengthening the profession. That is a very important thing that can happen when we have the collective interactions like this. And when we have eminent speakers here who will definitely share their views on the recent amendments. But the point is that we all know that the amendments have far-reaching implications. Now, IPE being recognized to be an IP, as there is a lot of questions in the mind of the insolvency professionals. And there are many concerns, many doubts. But well, as I see it from my interaction with bankers and others, is that the IPs will be restricted to the smaller CRP process with assets of 200 crores and with IPs with infrastructure up to 500 crores. And I expect that 500 crores and beyond, the IPs will be appointed to bring in their expertise in the process. That is how I look at it. Now, as far as the liquidation regulations is concerned, the major amendments, as I see it, is basically to expedite matters, to see that right at the when the decision is taken to liquidate a corporate debtor, then the existing COC starts the process of thinking what needs to be done in liquidation to save time. Also the SEC has been bestowed with more powers to have better say in the matter of liquidation, unlike what it was till recently. And among the CRP regulations, one important aspect has been that a minimum fee has been fixed, which that puts to rest a lot of issues that has been happening on the fees front. I wouldn't like to speak much on the amendments, because the eminent speakers here who will do it. And thank you very much for inviting me as president of RIPA. We expect, I am very happy that more such associations will take place between professional associations to strengthen the profession. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And
Just let me say I little bit gooped up because I am having severe migraine today.
Oh.
So in spite of that, since I am committed to, I am open. So not very well, in fact.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
and you take care of your health. Your presence
Yeah, I
itself is
will
very
fight.
important. We are
Yes,
privileged to have you here.
And it is my privilege rather that I am remaining relevant in the field of IBC, though I have
Sir.
little bit moved from this place exclusively.
for the benefit of this audience, I would only say I had the occasion of appearing before the Honorable Virendra Gupta ji on a few occasions. The quickness with which he grasps the issue on hand is amazing. And I always remembered that.
Thank you so much for your kind words.
Thank you.
I feel humbled.
Thank you,
I
sir.
have seen the nicely drafted orders, and that particular skill of writing, dictating, that is also not very common. I also understand that most of the members, they actually had been working very hard because of the scarcity of infrastructure. I even know that some of the members, or rather all, they have been given that dictate to write softwares by the government, that you dictate and the computer will type on this. I think the Dragon software has been given to you. So this is where I could understand that how hardworking this assignment would have been for you. So thank you very much for contributing to IBC, sir. Thanks a lot. Yes, Praveen ji, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Lord. Rashmi, please carry on.
Sir, thank you for your valuable presence in this seminar. Now, while going ahead, sir, as sir had already spoken, that we really need an analysis of these amendments. That what is the future of an individual IP? Because we see that whether IP should practice on their own or whether they should be part of their IP. So we would like to have your comments, sir, Anilji. If you could just, analyze these amendments and just, in a nutshell, you can just provide guidance on this part.
Certainly, Rashmi, thank you very much. And as I say that, my greetings to the guest of honor, Shri Virendra Gupta ji, and the guest of honor, Devarajan Ramanji, and the president of the JIPA Association, Vice President, Mr. Manoj Anand, Veen Janji, and my co-speakers. Yes, I understand that most of the insolvency professionals are presently, they are under a kind of dilemma that whether they should join an IPE or they should continue to practice or they should float their own IPE. That is what is presently everyone is kind of exploring. Now, as far as this market is concerned, I can only say that I was attending to one program convened by IBA, IBBI, and State Bank of India. And it was basically where the most of the bankers, they were invited. It was at SBI Academy, and I was also one of the speakers for 1 hour. So in that particular gathering, the MD of State Bank of India, he said very clearly that we like institutional IPs, because the institutional IPs, they are associated with us in many other cases, in many other professions. So they will not go against us. Whereas they have an experience that an individual IP who may not have very high stakes, who may be doing 1 or 2 cases only, and he at times can go against the interest of banks. So he clearly said that. Secondly, in Bombay, there was a bidding process going on. I'm talking about the last week only, rather this week. In that bidding process, 5 participants participated for the bidding, and everyone quoted the minimum fee. Everyone quoted the minimum fee, including IPE, including IP. So the bank will take a decision only on the technical capabilities, because the fee was, everyone quoted the minimum fee as per the regulation 36 capital A. Now, where the market is going on, one, that we should appreciate that all this was done based on the feedback. Secondly, we should also understand that all these amendments were basically at the instance of creditors, because the creditors have prevailed over the insolvency professionals. The fee which was there in the discussion papers, that finally got reduced based on the feedback from creditors. The incentive which was mandatory became kind of optional. The liquidation cases, most power was given to the stakeholders consultation committee or even the COC for the first 60 days. The replacement of a liquidator, that was also at the instance of the creditors. So the government was in fact trying that these financial creditors or the creditors, they were not really trusting IBC anymore. So government tried that the creditors should come back. They should trust more and more to IBC, and the IBC should not lose sheen. So that was the intent of all these like amendments. You can actually tell me any one amendment which is in favor of the insolvency professionals. The only one amendment that I can see that when a case is getting assigned from NCLT, so then there is a confusion, what would be the fee? So only that particular confusion is removed, that at least you will get the minimum fee. Otherwise, most of these amendments are at the instance of creditors. The feedback which has been given to IBBI, we had also given the feedback that this particular fee, with minimum fee, it should not be allowed to be shared with the IPE. However, the amendment does not come that way. The amendment, in fact, came the other way, that the insolvency professional cannot take any money from any professional or any from sports services. That's a reverse amendment. Now the feedback process is still continuing. In fact, Monday, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has invited a couple of professionals. I have also been invited to go to Ministry of Corporate Affairs and to give them suggestions what is still pending to be corrected in the IBC, so that the amendment is moved in the code also. So, like, you see, a couple of amendments that I would like to touch base, which are important. Those are all in the, especially in the liquidation process. When a liquidator is replaced, a reasonable remuneration would be given to the liquidator. Secondly, a voting pattern says that the 66% of the participant in the SEC, they would be able to approve a resolution or a suggestion or whatever you can say, consultation, at 66% of the persons voted. So anyone who is not voting would not be considered. So in case if there are 100 is the total voting power, so in case only 50% people vote, so 66% of people voted would be the required strength for passing a resolution. However, very carefully, you would see that for replacement of liquidator, they have made it very clear that the 66% of the 100 is required. For replacement of liquidator, 66% of the 100 is required, whereas for any advice, 66% of the person voted is required. So this is something which is very important. And secondly, the reconstitution of stakeholders consultation committee would only be required where the stakeholders consultation committee originally is applicable. So all those liquidation cases which started from 25th of July 2019, any liquidation case started before this date, the stakeholders consultation committee is not required to be constituted or reconstituted. So there are many such amendments. If you can allow me, I can share my PPT for some time. Praveen ji?
Sir, इसमें I have one question with you.
Yes,
यानी कि जैसे अभी
or we can find the format as discussion format, and like Manoj is asking a question, if that can be the format, that is also okay. But then like there are many amendments where I can find out the key issues. Otherwise, everyone has read it so far, but I'm trying to somehow close on some of the issues which are key issues. Yes, Anand ji, please बताइए.
सर रश्मि जी एंड प्रवीण जी, आई थिंक हम लोगों ने जितनी भी ये अमेंडमेंट्स आई थी, तो ये अप्रोक्सीमेटली अब 20-25 दिन हो गए हैं, तो मोस्ट ऑफ द आईपीस हैव ऑलरेडी बेसिकली स्टडीड. अब सर ने एक जो टोन स्टडी स्टार्ट करी है कि वेयर बाय वी कैन हैव एडवांस लेवल ऑफ दीज अमेंडमेंट व्हिच कैन मेक अस टू अंडरस्टैंड बेटर. इफ एवरीबॉडी एग्रीज वी कैन गो विद दैट फॉर्मेट. मदान सर, अनिल जी, जैसा आप कहते हैं,
I think this is the right format today, that rather than sharing the PPT, we should actually try to understand the advanced understanding of the, because everyone has read that now.
Sorry to bother, sir. So your person.
I see you are not audible. I think you have to unmute yourself, Mr. Ramji.
Sir, your advice is personally you should go to join an IPA instead of individual IP. That will be the better for the future.
Sir, we go with it step by step. सर अब इसका जो फॉर्मेट है तो वी कैन डू वन थिंग. सर जैसे ब्रॉडली अभी आपने बात करी कि creditors have influenced a lot on the government and mainly to the IBBF for all these things. One school of thought is also that because of any reason, because I would not specify those reasons, government or IBBI is losing a lot of confidence in the IPs also. In the IPs also. What is your advice,
yes,
so
sir,
that we can have that sort of
experience.
confidence in the IPs also? Because ultimately, agar 4 pillars hain, so it is said that IP is the most valuable pillar. So, sir, why government is losing, or IBB is losing, having less confidence on we people? What is your advice to go for that?
No, so like, see, when I was asked to speak at that gathering, where all these DGMs and of various banks were gathered there, I only
Sir,
said a
you
couple of
are
things.
able to share your screen, sir.
All right, ji, okay. So I was able to say one thing, that I presented before the audience that there are everything that an RP is doing, the COC approval is required. Give me any kind of action of the RP where the COC approval is not required. Nobody could speak anything. I said even for the operational, in case the company is operating, the RP is supposed to provide MIS every month, fund flow every month to the committee of creditors, and whatever is the loss every month, that should be approved by the committee of creditors so that it becomes the part of the CIRP cost. So even the IBBI says that even for appointment of guards, the COC approval is required. Even that is, we understand that that is an operational cost, but any CIRP cost, even if it is an operational loss, that should get an approval of the committee of creditors. Each and every action of the RP requires committee of creditors approval. So in case the resolution fails, how can it be the responsibility of the RP only? Don't you think that
I would like to add one thing.
Yes,
what we saw, even where there was no statutory requirement, there were no, still the RP started following a practice of formal approval on all the issues from COC, so that there could not be any punitive action or complaint against them as a matter of safeguard. So that was the practice. So COC as such cannot get absolved itself.
So the COC, absolutely, sir. Gupta sir, COC has the major role, and now even the amended regulation says that the COC will interact with the valuers. The COC can ask questions from valuers that what is your valuation methodology and how you have what kind of information that you have gathered. The COC will also Gupta sir, the COC will also find the and approve the strategy for sale of the or for finding the resolution applicants, and how much expenditure the COC will allow to the RP for marketing of a particular information memorandum for more and more, for gathering more and more resolution applicant. So where is the discretion of the RP? RP is only doing something based on the instructions of the COC. So this saying this that the government is losing faith on RP, I think that the RP is the only one part of the total ecosystem where somebody can point and finger. Now, since the COC doesn't have a face, every time in the meeting, different people come, and therefore nobody can point a finger on COC. And the delay can be from various capacity constraints with NCLT. So that capacity constraint, nobody can point a finger on that.
The consent one.
There can be delay in some of the decisions, some of the amendments, like the enforcement director attachment, the clarification regarding the section 53 allocation, whether the secured creditor has a kind of one category or two category under section 53(1)(a). All these are matters are still pending. So therefore the litigation keeps rising. So I still don't say that the government was not having faith on the IPs. However, when the Honorable Finance Minister said on the 6th annual day that this haircut and RPs be cautious about the haircut, there should have been somebody who would have said that it is not the responsibility of the RP that the resolution plans are being accepted at 95% haircut. And that was, nobody was there because the opportunity was not given to anyone from the insolvency professionals. So nobody could clarify that the haircut is not because of the RP.
सर इसमें मैं थोड़ा सा ऐड करना चाहूंगा. इफ यू सी द इंटरनेशनल प्रैक्टिसेस, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द एडवांस कंट्रीज. हमारे तो यहाँ पे आए हुए आईबीसी को 6 साल हुए हैं. हार्डली 6 years ago this IBCS came in the picture. In other countries it has been running for decades and maybe for many years. If we see the practices of Canada, USA, all developed economies, UK, even Singapore, it has come quite late there. No, our government has gone for institutionalization of this our IP work by recognizing IP as IP. But this is not the international practice. International practice everywhere is like that, whereby they rely more on the insolvency professional. Reason for that is whatever work, this is the nature of this particular assignment. Whatever we do in the IBC, lot of individuals' intelligence is involved. And when this individual intelligence is involved, it has been recognized by the law also. I remember it is being said by our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, in 2017 when GST came into picture. They said that I still remember his words. CA is the only profession where government bhi rely karta hai or client bhi rely karta hai. Similarly, in our case also, we as an IP, among all the 4 pillars, we are the coordinating all 3 pillars. But at the same time, our responsibilities are increasing day by day. But a lot of controls or whatever you call it are being put on us. Will this lead to development of our IP profession more or not? In my opinion, it may not lead to that extent. This is my feeling if we compare our IP profession as far as international practices are being concerned. Madan sir, aap bhi kuch bataiye please. You are also quite have a lot of experience in all these things, and especially handling of a lot of disciplinary cases. So my second objective was coming on to automatically come out like this. So please share your experience, sir.
Thank you, Manoj ji. Thank you all the organizers, and my special gratitude to Virendra Gupta ji, one of the best recognized technical members in NCLT. I had the privilege of appearing before him, reading number of orders, and the orders have already been praised by Mr. Devarajan as well by Mr. Anil Goyal. And it's my privilege today to share this virtual dais with him. Thank you, sir, for being with us.
Thank you so much, Madan sir, for your kind words.
मनोज जी, थोड़ा सा मैं बोलना चाहूंगा अभी जो whatever discussion has happened on that. सबसे पहले गुप्ता साहब ने बोला regulations versus the code, whether regulations are mandatory or directory. I just want to discuss a case day before yesterday when I was there before NCLAT. What happened in that case? Actually an eye-opener for all of us also, practicing insolvency professionals. What has happened in that case? The claims come, RP constitutes COC, and he issues a notice for COC meeting. Now, after issue of this COC meeting notice, one financial institution files a claim. Now, the time left is 5 days. As per law, RP gets 7 days to reconcile this claim, to collate the claim. However, on the penultimate day, he communicates it to the financial creditor that your claim has been provisionally accepted, subject to the reconciliation with the accounts of the records of the corporate debt. Now, post this first COC meeting, this financial creditors now files an application before NCLT that I should have been made a member of COC in the very first meeting. I should have been invited. His application gets dismissed. He prefers an appeal. Now, day before yesterday, appellate authority asked me, what prevented you from admitting him as member of COC? I said his claim is yet to be reconciled in all finality. I have got the time. Actually, what has been done by me, I have complied with all the regulations in letter and spirit. But bench says, Mr. Madan, you know that regulations are directory in nature. And then my answer was, if I treat regulations as directory in nature, then Ibbi is after me. And if I follow the regulations, then the appellate authority is after me. Why did I not invite him? So this actually, there has to be a finality has to come whether the regulations are directory or regulations are mandatory. And even if you read this Rainbow Papers judgment, where Honorable Supreme Court has said that all the timelines under the code, not under the regulations only. It says all the timelines under the code are directory in nature. Now think of this. Tomorrow, if you receive any show cause notice from IBBI that why did not comply with timelines, show them Rainbow Papers that Supreme Court has said all the timelines are directory in nature. If regulations are directory in nature, regulations cannot bypass the main legislation. I ask a question to myself, and I've raised this question to IBBA also a number of times. Why IBBA has still not brought the provisions with respect to IPE in the code? Why IPEs are being dealt under the insolvency professional regulations only? Why code is not amended? We should have a provision with respect to insolvency professional entities in the code. What number? At least 5 to 6 times the code has been amended. But why no amendment with respect to IPE? According to me, if the code does not provide for IPE, regulations also cannot provide for IPE. This is my personal reading. Coming to a statement of Anilji regarding Madam that said 1st of October, Madam said about haircut. Haircut vis-a-vis resolution plan. I fail to understand what plan has to do with the haircut. A resolution plan has to be submitted as per the valuation to be done by the resolution applicant independently. Whatever is the valuation as per the resolution applicant, he will submit the plan accordingly. It may be 10% haircut, it may be 98% haircut. In one of the cases, State Bank of India has filed a claim worth rupees more than 600 crores. But the total valuation of the property assets of the corporate debtor is just 3 crores of rupees. अगर 3 करोड़ रुपए की लिक्विडेशन वैल्यू है तो उसका प्लान कितने का आएगा? 4 करोड़, 5 करोड़, 6 करोड़ एट द मोस्ट. अब आप कहेंगे जी वहां तो 99% हेयर कट हो गया. What haircut has to do with the resolution plan? Plan will be as per the valuation, not as per the haircut. What is outstanding to the financial creditors? No, never. I think it's a myth. The government must reconsider this because that has sent a very wrong signal to adjudicating authority also. That wherever there is a haircut maybe 90%, 95%, adjudicating authority think 10 times before passing this resolution plan. मनोज जी आपने बोला responsibilities are increasing day by day. मेरे हिसाब से not only responsibilities but the liabilities also which are increasing day by day. And as he said that I represent many IPs before the disciplinary committee as well as before the disciplinary committees of IPs also. I tell you, the signal which we are getting from them is that we need to be simply a compliance officer. Just comply with the code and the regulations. Even if the company is going into liquidation, let it go. But please follow the law. This is particularly with respect to those cases. I tell you, there are a number of cases where the resolution professional, with an intention rather to perform a duty to keep the company as a going concern, he has to make certain payments which may belong to the prior period. There is a supplier of oil, fuel, a truck union. There are certain pressing creditor. There's one single supplier of a particular commodity, and without that, a company cannot run. And the company is a going concern. He says that first of all, make me the payment of the prior period, then only I'll supply the goods. If you don't make the payment, the plant will close down tomorrow itself. But if you make the payment, IBBI says there's a violation of section 14. How can you make? You should ask and you file the claim. Now, on such scenarios, IP is having two duties. One, to keep the company as a going concern. That's a duty enshrined by law. Another is a duty enshrined by law is to follow the law, to comply with the provisions of the code. Now, if I have to choose between the two, as an individual, as a commercial person, I'll choose the first one. I'll try to keep the company as a going concern at the cost of compliances of various other provisions. But if I do that, I've seen a number of cases where the disciplinary action is taken against the insolvency professional. At many places, the law is not clear. Law is subject to multiple interpretations. But when the matter comes to IBBI, IBM thinks from the angle, yes, the person should have interpreted the law as per
their understanding.
Regulator. I mean, that's not acceptable.
सर इसमें एक छोटा सा मैं रुकता हूँ विंदर सर हाँ please carry on.
Every time we say that whether it comes to the ministry or the regulator or the adjudicating authority, everybody said a law is at nascent stage. Law is a nascent stage for everybody except but for IPs. For IPs, it's not a nascent stage. The IP is supposed to be expert. He's supposed to be a robot. He has to follow the law. Whether he's in a position to comply with that or not, but he has to comply with that. I think we need to be a bit practical. The regulator should come down to the level of the insolvency professionals. Think about the facts and circumstances. I'm not saying not saying that in all the cases that whatever IPs have done, that's right. No, there are black sheeps in every profession, and they are there in our profession also. I'm admitting that fact. I know that also. But law is not never based on the basis of aberrations or exceptions. On the basis of aberrations, don't make the law. Now the amendments which are coming, according to me, some of the amendments are not practically possible to be implemented, particularly by insolvency professionals. We need rethinking, we need revisiting of these amendments. When we'll come to one by one, we'll discuss those wherever I have my own grievances or my own suggestions. We'll discuss when my turn comes. Thank you.
मधुसूदन जी आप हो अलाइव हो आए हो आप because he is our third speaker. चलिए सर अनिल सर मैं आपसे एक छोटी सी रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहूंगा कि जैसे बदान सर ने भी कहा कि many a times we are helpless and we expect that wherever we are helpless विंदर जी सर हमारे यहाँ पे हैं तो the NCLT or the court will help us in doing it. But what is your stance on it? In my opinion, court really come to help IPs.
No, I think
sir आपके experience में क्या है?
See Manoj ji, like I normally rather than finding difficulties, I would rather go towards the remedies and solutions. So if you would actually see the discussion papers issued by the IBBI, in fact, IBBI said that the entire work of CIRP can be divided into 5 zones. And each zone can be started immediately on the commencement of CIRP. And the meaning of that particular discussion in that discussion paper was that for each zone, you can have separate team working. Maybe one is working on the claim verification, the other is working on the control and custody, the other is working on the keeping the company as a going concern, and the other is working on preparation of information memorandum, and the 5th team is working for finding resolution applicant. Now, when the IBBI is of this opinion that the timelines are very important, the incentives are introduced for completion in time. So they actually mean that it is a teamwork. It is not an individual's work to take up a CIRP assignment, and especially for those companies which are operational. Now, see, when we talk about 5 separate zones, and each zone can actually be started right from the day the CIRP has started, that is the way the timeline can be caught, timeline can be complied with. Now, the major focus of the government is that the resolutions should be achieved in time and effectiveness. If I just take through 3 or 4 amendments, one is the Regulation 36, which is the information memorandum. Now, information memorandum has now been proposed as a document which is almost equivalent to a project report of a company. Whenever we actually prepare a project report for presenting before a venture capitalist, that kind of business plan is required for selling a company. Now go to the section Regulation 36 capital C, where the strategy for marketing is also required to be discussed with the COC, and there can be a budget for strategy. Now, when we also talk about the a resolution plan, where if the resolution plan is not received for a company as a whole, then we can even process a resolution plan only for one part of the business of the company. But there are 2 certain amendments which are in fact very important, and where I say I will welcome these 2 amendments. One is that the time which was used to be wasted for compromise or arrangement under Section 230 of the Companies Act, they have added Regulation 39 capital BA, and in that case they are saying that the compromise or arrangement can be explored only in the first 30 days of the liquidation commencement order. It is very clear that when the COC is deciding to liquidate the company, in that particular meeting, COC will also decide whether compromise or arrangement schemes can be explored or not. And in case the COC decides yes, then the time between filing of the application to liquidate the company and final liquidation order, that time can be used for inviting or for exploring the proposals under or schemes under Section 230 of the Companies Act. So now I think the lot of time that we guys have wasted in exploring or in receiving such kind of scheme under Section 230 of the Companies Act, but that is all closed. Secondly, the liquidation as a going concern, which was basically a creation of couple of judgments and also couple of regulations, which is not there in the code itself, that has also been almost, it's a kind of sunset clause. In this particular scenario, they have said that only the first auction can be made as a liquidation as a going concern, and that too if it is decided by the committee of creditors. In the subsequent auctions, whenever you try to sell the company as a going concern, you will also have to offer assets in piecemeal, so that there is no wastage of time in trying to sell the company as a going concern. Lastly, the completion in the liquidation process. Now, in case we can provide for the avoidance transactions, whatever may be the realization, who would be responsible to continue the litigation, how the proceeds would be allocated. In case we can decide we can liquidate a company, we can dissolve a company, even if there are litigations continuing. So these are some of the some of the amendments which are only focusing on timely completion of the process. May it be liquidation, may it be CIRP. But what I'm trying to say, the zones, when we actually try to say that the CIRP should be divided into 5 zones, it is written by the IBBI in their discussion paper, and all the work can be started on all the zones. Then it all depends upon the infrastructure. If an individual IP has infrastructure, he can be preferred by the creditors. If an IP has the infrastructure, IPE can be preferred by the creditors. It is not a question of individual IP or the IPE. There are many individual IPs, they have huge infrastructure. They can satisfy the creditors that they can start work on all the 5 zones at one time. So I think it is not a discussion that whether IP or IPE would be preferred. The creditors would prefer only those who have infrastructure to post people and to also have kind of multi specializations in the same in-house, because the IBBI says that you cannot outsource your work. You cannot even outsource the claim verification. Even if the claims are 20,000 home buyers, you have to have infrastructure within yourself. So that actually means that infrastructure is more important. IPE or IP is not important. Yes, please. Over to
sir. Yeah. इसमें sir, one more question I have with you. Sir, Vrinder sir, हम आपसे आंसर लेंगे इस बात का कि जुडिशरी हमारे रेस्क्यू के लिए क्यों नहीं आती. सर, अब आपने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात करी. At present, we have around 4,500 IPs working, around 80 IPEs who are working, or maybe now get increased to 100. What I mean to say is that, do you feel that market size is of that extent, whereby every IPE or IP or a combination of that is able to get work? In my opinion, in my humble submission, my other participants can also join with me. Hardly 20-25 IPs are doing work. Rest all IPs, maybe balance 50 or 60 IPs, they are living on the hope. Out of 4,500 IP, hardly top 100 are getting good works, or maybe 1 or 2 assignments reaches up to 1,000 IPs or 1,000 and 1,500 IPs. Rest all 3,000 IPs are simply living on the hope. If this is the scene of the industry, sir, then how we can cope up with 5 zones or something like that? Number one. Number two, my question is that in the case of running concerns, okay, your 5 zone concept is absolutely okay. But if we go with the numbers also, how many companies we do have as a running concern which are which require the continuously 5 zone work? Meaning thereby, at the end of the day, that this whole IP work will be get concentrated to those people only who have the infrastructure, who have the capability to run all these things. So then, Indian economy is a different economy. Our economy is not like Western economy. Our economy is like MSME economy. Our government encourages, medium, small enterprises at every level. Same, I expect that maybe in IP work also. This is also. Thank you very much.
I think first I would like to have the comments of Gupta sir. Yes, please.
There is one question that how the adjudicating authority can help the cause of the IPs. That is the IP IBC structure is very clear, very, very clear. As far as the commercial process is concerned, the COC is the supreme. As far as the conduct of the process and timelines and procedural requirements and the approval of the this is concerned, the adjudicating authority has got the jurisdiction. As far as the regulatory and disciplinary aspect of professionals is concerned, that falls within the domain of IBBI, who is also assigned with the responsibility to develop the regulations to make IBC more effective and it can be implemented. So there have been instances either the adjudicating authority has got no role basically in many of the cases before us. When there was a grievance and complaint against the IP or RPs, So we used to say there is section 217. Please approach IBBI. Nobody approaches IBBI. Why you are raising a grievance against the RP? So in that situation, the role of the adjudicating authority as far as the functioning or malfunctioning of the IPs are concerned is very limited. When there is a violation of any law during the process, if it is malified, the only approach is to approach IBBI. The process if vitiated, judicial scrutiny doesn't, then the consequences of that can be made null and void or otherwise validated by adjudicating authority. So that is one aspect. Now coming to the aspect of it's a situation ki if you recall the a little bit of background, dirty dogens were the primary focus of the government. That 12 cases, known cases, after the resolution of those cases, there was and due to COVID, there was a lull period. Now within that period, so many, and as rightly pointed out by the Anilji, that due to capabilities, inefficiencies, and shortage of staff, NCLT as an institution could not also function to the extent it should have been. And leave apart the process of getting the creating a false or frivolous litigation to delay the processes. So now the things are such that after that functioning, so whatever gaps are being pointed out, then if not represented properly, or if the counter views or practical aspects are not taken into consideration, or at the time of framing, there is a perception within the government. To some extent, I agree with Manoj ji, कि government also thought, in some cases, we also thought, कि RP lacked the penetrative skills, because he's practically, if you see, RP is a CEO of a sick company. And even to run a healthy company is a challenging task in a competitive environment. It's not that ki any unit under NCLT is going under NCLT process will have any advantage as far as the running of the going concern is concerned. So more so, and coupled with the responsibility, but there are few bright lines also in the amendments where the creditors have been given certain responsibilities to lessen the burden and to ease up the burden of the RPs. Those informations have been made mandatorily to be provided at the before with the applications also. So it's a view is being taken how to balance all the issues, which the gaps which are causing delay or which are resulting into the less value realization of the debts, the maximization of the value of the assets. As and when the situation comes, the government will intervene. And as far as this, there is a serious issue, as in my view, which we have not understood. Perhaps I took a little more time to understand why the Rainbow May the Supreme Court held so. Because Supreme Court has done nothing. What the SG has said, what the ASG has said, they have accepted that. And as far as my understanding goes, SG or ASG do not say anything beyond the mandate of the government, the apex ministry, how they perceive the law to be. Maybe there be representations from revenue departments that our revenue, outstanding revenues dues are going, becoming null and void, zero. So that could be an instance. So that is why the government has not, IBBI has not taken up the issue under review petition. So there is a rethinking also on the government legislation, how to balance the different contradictions in every corner of the IBC. Let's see what happens. But as far as the regulatory role of IPs are concerned, that is perfectly and completely in domain of IBBI.
Sir, I would like to
so happy, Gupta.
I would like to revert on this part regarding the rainbow paper. My understanding is that presently, in case I have conducted 2 webinars in the last 2 weeks on various Supreme Court judgments and SURFACI law. And it is very clear that if under section 26 capital E of SURFACI Act, if any creditor which is mandatory for them, that if they register their mortgage transaction with the central registry, then there is no other lien or there is no other attachment that can actually be prevail over their mortgage. So SARFAESI law is presently very, very clean and very, very safe as far as the secured creditors are concerned. It is very clear that under SARFAESI, there is no priority to tax department, GST department, or state tax department, or even PMLA. Because once the SARFAESI registers a mortgage transaction, that is considered to be very clear, and it is absolutely clean that this particular mortgage is registered with central registrar. Now, the second part that I'm trying to say, we have seen Income Tax Act, we have seen GST. So we have not found any such particular law which is there in the state tax officer versus rainbow paper. That particular automatic lien was only in that state tax law, and that state tax law is a history now, because there is no such state where such state tax law are there. It is only GST or it is only the income tax. So in income tax or in the GST, no such provisions of automatic lien is not there. Third, in this particular
rather,
case,
in fact, I think CGST gives primacy to IBC.
Right. Yes. And
So,
now the second, in the CGST, yes. See, in the GST Act, it is written subject to IBC.
IBC.
It is written subject to IBC. Now, what I'm trying to say is that in case we try to read this paragraph number 5 of the Rainbow Paper Private Limited, it is very clear that this particular tax demand was crystallized. It was pertaining to assessment year 12 or 13. Then in 2016, the recovery process started through the tax recovery officer. Then during CIRP in 2018, the assets were also attached by the tax recovery department, although nobody brought this point before the Honorable Supreme Court that this particular attachment was done during CIRP. Nobody raised this issue. As you rightly said, whatever the Advocate General said, that is what is the final order, but they have no intent, sir, because the assets were attached. In fact, I can actually share my experience that in most of the state industrial development corporation, they have a clause whenever they allot a plot to any entrepreneur, that against the dues of the state industrial development corporation, they will have lien on the property. We fought in a couple of cases, and finally we have to admit them as a secured operational creditor, and they were very happy, and it resolved the issue. Secured operational creditor, to the extent of their claim, in case they have an attachment, in case they have a lien, that we have been doing for the last 3 years without even waiting for the state tax officer, because it is very clear that they have a lien and they are secured operational creditor. So I still could not find anything wrong in the Rainbow Paper judgment. Yes, please. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
मदान सर, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे प्लीज?
बिल्कुल, रेनबो पे तो जरूर कहना चाहूंगा मैं. I'm in agreement with Gupta sir that SG and ASG, they came forward and they supported GVAT. Were they not supposed to support IBC also? Now, if you read, first of all, I tell you, when this Supreme Court judgment came, on that very day, there was no company in the name of Rainbow Papers Limited. That company was not in existence at all. Resolution plan was there, and by virtue of the resolution plan, the company already got merged with Kushal Limited. So existence of Rainbow Paper was not there. Now Kushal Limited, once this company was merged with Kushal Limited wanted this plan to be rejected, because according to withdraw this plan, actually they did not want this plan to implement. Now once that they filed an application for withdrawal of this plan, for non-implementation of the plan, I fail to understand whether we do such mistakes before the adjudicating authority also while appearing virtually. Okay. Actually, Kushal Limited applied for the, we don't want to implement the plan. Their application got rejected. But now they are very happy because this order says, Supreme Court judgment say the plan gets quashed. Plan is quashed. That plan no more survives, and Kushal Limited is one of the happiest companies. कि बिना कुछ किए जो वो चाहते थे उनको मिल गया है. And now read this, some of the paragraphs of this rainbow papers, which are going to have far-reaching impact on all the resolution plans which are pending for approval or which are pending for implementation. And para 52 and para 53 are the most damaging sections according to me. Para 52 says if the resolution plan ignores the statutory demands payable to state government, to any state government or a legal authority. Now, where from this word legal authority came here? Tomorrow, Noida and Greater Noida will come forward. Then it says, if the plan ignores the statutory demands payable to state government or legal authority, the adjudicating authority is bound to reject the resolution plan. Now, this is a clear-cut mandate to adjudicating authorities. Then in para 53, it says, if a company is unable to pay its debts, which should include its statutory dues to the government and other authorities, again the word is other authorities, and there is no plan which contemplates dissipation of those debts in a phased manner, the company would necessarily have to be liquidated and its assets sold and distributed in terms of section 53. Our preamble to the code does not talk about liquidation at all. Our preamble talks about restructuring, rehabilitation, revival. But here the judgment says if you are unable to pay the debts to the statutory authorities or government or other authorities, please liquidate the company, sell the assets. I think that is not in the right spirit. And that is why the 2 review petitions have already been filed before Supreme Court. The 3rd review petition is also under consideration. That shall be filed very shortly. But to me, some damage which was done through in this case has been undone by the same bench in dismissal order of Vidarbha Industries. Vidarbha Industries dismissal order dated 22nd of September. Actually, that dismissal order says the elucidation, sorry, I'm just saying it. Yes. It is well settled that judgments and observations in judgments are not to be read as provisions of statute. Judicial utterances and pronouncements are in setting of the facts of a particular case. So therefore, if we read the rainbow judgment with respect to the facts of rainbow judgment, it's fine, it's okay. But if you try to implement in other cases, it will be a disastrous situation according to me. And I'm very sure in the review petition, this rainbow judgment shall be reviewed and either it shall be quashed or set aside or some clarification shall be provided. I'm very confident about it. पानी इधर भी भेज दो विष्णु जी. हाँ जी.
Sir, we can
very right. Yes.
Sir, we
Yes,
can
go back to the original.
Go back to the original amendment. Can we go back to the amendments, recent amendments? If you can just highlight on this.
So we have, in fact, we have in fact many amendments that, in fact, I have already said one by one, and especially those which are actually important. But I definitely would like to say this one particular amendment, which is in the insolvency professionals regulation, which is clause 26A, which they actually inserted regulation 26 capital A, which says that an insolvency professional shall not accept / share any fee or charges from any professional and support service provider who are appointed under the process. Now, this amendment, we thought that it has a meaning that whatever is the minimum fee, that would not be shared with anyone, but then that is basically an insolvency professional shall not accept or share any fee or charges from. So that means that the minimum fee that we have now, and that fee can be shared between the IP and the IPE, because this section 26 capital A, regulation 26 capital A does not prohibit that kind of sharing. This is what is my understanding. Anyone would like to comment on this? But as far as this regulation 34 capital A is concerned, where the minimum fee has been prescribed, I think that has actually been read by everyone. The minimum fee, the structure, which is again like starting from 1 lakh per month to 5 lakh per month. So now even if there is a case of more than 10,000 crore claims, admitted claims, the minimum fee would be 5 lakhs per month. And there may be some incentives, and that is also the discretion of committee of creditors, all these performance linked. Now, even otherwise, this
Anil ji, आपका experience जो शुरू में आपने share किया, where you said there were the 5 bidders in the bank, and this was the apprehension on day 1. The minimum fixed fee shall become the maximum fixed fee.
Absolutely.
It will be the minimum and maximum both, and that is what you said, that all 5 bidders quoted the same fee, which is the minimum one under the.
And this is going to happen in every case, Madan Sahab.
It will happen, yes.
And so is the entire profession. It will just be a normal profession, just like a chartered accountancy, just like advocate, you and me. We have been working for audit assignments where the fees is 50,000 rupees and the responsibilities are increasing every year. The insolvency profession has also become almost the similar profession. Whereas like Madan Sahab, even for signing a balance sheet, is stressful nowadays.
Yes.
It is not less stressful, because if you see the NAFRA and the kind of various allegations which are coming and the various disciplinary actions which are coming from the Institute of Chartered Accountants, because they also want to improve the kind of image of the signed balance sheets by Indian Chartered Accountant, that is also stressful now. So the fee is almost leveled. This fee is almost leveled. So it is a normal economic action of any kind of jurisdiction. Wherever you will find extra bonus, people will come there. And whenever you find that there is a glut, people will go away. So the next thing which is going to happen, that anyone who is already settled and has an option of practicing as a lawyer or practicing as a chartered accountant, he would not continue with the practice of IP. Then you would see that there will be dearth of insolvency professionals for good cases. So there will be some concentration only on those people who are 100% devoted to this insolvency profession, and anyone who is actually sailing in 2 boats, they would have to opt for 1 boat, either a chartered accountancy practice or a lawyer's practice or a company secretary practice or a cost accountant practice. But even I tell you, all those who are management experts, they are retiring from banks and they are joining this insolvency profession. All those who are actually, they have been working with the multinational companies or other companies, and they are retiring, and after the retirement, they are joining this profession. For them, it is only and only one option is open, that they should join IPE for them. But for an existing chartered accountant, for an existing advocate, for an existing practicing company secretary, they can still opt for their individual practice in case they have infrastructure. However, anyone who is retiring from banks and their earlier salary was 2 lakhs per month, the banks would only be interested to give them the job. Creditors would only be interested to give them the job in case they have larger stakes. Now, in case Madan Sahab or Gupta Sahab, in case as AAA insolvency, in case I become IP, as this IPE become IP, and a case is assigned to AAA insolvency professionals, and if I do any non-compliance, and what is my stakes? If the AAA insolvency does any non-compliance and an SCN is issued, that means that all my 28 designated partner and my 50 associate partners, they all will be ruined. So
But
therefore,
normally, in the CA profession, it was the designated partner who signed the balance sheet. Unless there is a gross negligence or breach of policy or even on the face of it, there is a something, then only the other partners or other signatories were involved. Otherwise, not normally. But
I'm see, Gupta sir, what I'm trying to refer to is like
but
think of the various orders passed by various courts against the multinational auditing firms and the
Yes,
penalties that actually have been imposed on those firms, that has been huge. Now this is going to happen to the insolvency professionals also in case it is institutional.
yes, absolutely. There is a
this is going to happen now. The penalties
this is a distinct possibility.
Yes.
It's not that
गुप्ता सर जो आप कह रहे हैं, नए कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट के अंदर फर्म हैज बीन इक्वली मेड
made responsible
along with all partners.
All partners. So that is the intention.
In new code of conduct which has come into picture 2 years ago.
If one of my partner becomes not a fit and proper person, the entire license of the IP, institutional IP, is cancelled. That is what is the regulation.
So
the amended regulation.
Yes, that is correct. View of the, because we have to be conservative in any case. We can't take at risk because of this thing. The whole profession, how entity goes into peril. Number one. Number two, what I am saying, apart from minimum fees in monetary terms, some qualitative factors must be added to the criteria for evaluation of the proposal and appointment of RPs. Because unless that is done, past track record or the track record and the capacities and the quantum of resolution plans based upon some valuations, some qualitative factors need to be introduced apart from this criteria for bidding purposes, so that the COC, being in most of the cases public financial institutions, have got little discretion to appoint the competent people only, apart from the financial criteria. Otherwise, what you have said is correct. It will the person who is to run the company to fetch the maximum value, that aim will not be achieved. In any case, he will try to comply only and to safeguard his skin in all situations. So that's a big dampener in a sense.
गुप्ता जी सर, इसके बारे में अनिल जी, आई जस्ट टेक 1 मिनट. इसके बारे में आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर. हमारे सीए प्रोफेशन के अंदर वी आर बीइंग अलॉटेड स्टैट्यूटरी बैंक ऑडिट्स वेयर बाय फर्म्स हैज बीन कैटेगराइज्ड इनटू कैटेगरी 1 2 3 4 बेस्ड ऑन नंबर ऑफ द पार्टनर्स एंड नंबर ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस दे हैव. Accordingly, we suggested to the IBBI also in 2 or 3 webinars. In fact, myself, was pointed and suggested this thing, that we can also categorize our IPEs like that, and accordingly they should be made eligible for, in case of what happens in case of bank audits. That category A, one firm gets only audits of say 1,000 crore above,
particular size.
That can also be at that. The best part of this is that this particular system is running very successfully, happily for RBI also, banks also, for the last 25-30 years. Meaning thereby that if
Manoj ji, Anil ji ka question kuch aur hai. Anil ji ka question is not on this selection. His question is about different. Anil ji, if you can repeat your question, please.
Accountability and responsibility.
Yes,
I'm saying that if the committee of creditors will get a particular deal where the stakes are very high, the non-compliance will cost me hugely as compared to any other individual who is actually individually practicing, whereas both are charging the same fee. What would be the choice of committee of creditors? That is something which I am trying to say. So therefore, the banks or the committee of creditors, they are already started feeling comfortable with those people who have very high stakes and charging the same fee.
सर आप तो फिर हमारा जो गवर्नमेंट का कंसेप्ट है SME वाला सर उसको तो आउट कर दोगे। और सर हमारे इस समय 70-80 के करीब लिसनर्स हैं और 70-80 में से आप मान के चलो 70-80% ही जो है ना वो SME कैटेगरी के अंदर आते हैं। तो सर अब उनके लिए आप थोड़ा सा बताइए कि जैसे अब इट इज इनविटेबल टू हैव एन IPE। Now persons who have not formed an IPE and they are thinking now to form an IPE, what sort of formation they go for that as per your experience? जैसे अभी थोड़ी देर पहले आपने कहा कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर होनी चाहिए चाहे इंडिविजुअल IP के पास या इंडिविजुअल IPE के पास। At the same time, you come out with this thing also कि since you are having say 25 designated partner or something like that, in that case risk also increases a lot because हर पार्टनर क्या काम कर रहा है कैसे कर रहा है, not HO can monitor this thing. In that case sir, जो अपकमिंग हमारे ये प्रोफेशनल ब्रदर्स हैं जैसे प्रवीण जैन जी भी हैं, they are also thinking of either joining an IPE or forming an IPE. तो सर उसके लिए under these circumstances what is your best guideline and what your experience is? Sir please हमारे को इस पर थोड़ा सा enlighten करिए, we go with the expectation of the audience.
I still feel that there should not be any knee-jerk reaction at this moment. We should also try to see the flow of water. I expect that the flow of water would be kind of settled down and there will be a scenario which will be almost balanced along with the other practitioners. In fact, I was very apprehensive why the fee should be 50 lakhs rupees per month, why the fee should be 90 lakhs per month. What was the reason where all other expenses are reimbursable? What is that so great that even the Supreme Court judges, agar wo 5 lakh rupees lete hain plus some perquisites, why a person like me should ask for 10 lakhs per month? I was really not convinced because the market was giving and we were also growing. So we created teams and we paid salaries. But now, like even as a chartered accountant, we keep staff, we pay salaries. But when I started and the insolvency practice, I was increasing the salaries of my staff every 3 months. Whereas in the chartered accountancy business, we increase salaries once in a year. Why we were increasing the salaries by every 3 months? Because everyone was poaching experienced in the workers. But now there is no demand for experienced worker. The salaries will also come down. The work is also not lesser. So there are many people, they will leave this profession. And finally, the respectable fee would be there in the market. But somehow I have a feeling that if this particular regulation continues, if the institutional IP continues, then it is the institutional IP which will work. Fee may be this or fee may be higher. That is a separate issue. But my belief as of today with this law, after having interactions with the private banks like Edelweiss, Kotak Mahindra, and Yes Bank, and also having the interaction with the public sector banks, everyone is saying that if the option is available of a person who has very high stakes for any kind of non-contravention or any kind of non-compliance, we would prefer the person with high stakes, high investment, high risk, rather than any standalone person who may or who may not agree to our instructions or directions.
सर पिरामिड की जो आप बात कर रहे हैं, हाँ जी सर प्लीज कैरी ऑन।
मेरी थोड़ी सी ऑब्जर्वेशन है इसमें दैट इफ वी कंपेयर कि अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट जज को 5 लाख मिल रहे हैं तो हमें 5 लाख से ऊपर क्यों नहीं मिलने चाहिए? तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजेस के बाकी सारे खर्चे दे आर टेकन केयर ऑफ। आपको 5 लाख रुपए में अपना ऑफिस भी संभालना, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी संभालना, सैलरीज भी देनी है उसी में से।
So, but what I'm trying to say, Madan sir, that we are not restricted to one job. We can have 10 jobs also in hand. Na? 5 lakhs into 10, 50 lakhs ho jate hain.
But the responsibility, the liabilities which you are having, whether those liabilities are there, by the end of the CIRB, there are multiple litigation against the IP, whether those things are there, no. Whether a loss of reputation which is there in our case, whether that is there, no, it's not there.
I certainly agree with you. Even an IAS officer is also exposed to various kind of vigilance inquiries. even like, I'm not talking about the judges, but then even a banker is also exposed to many kind of inquiries and suspensions, and even also because they also take risk when they
But so
sanction loans.
practically, how many cases are happening there, and the cases which are happening here?
I think Madan Saab, and this is a apples to be compared with apples, orange to be compared with the oranges. That is the situation.
Now coming to this amendment with respect to the minimum fees, I have one observation, because here what has been thought of by IBBI, the moment CIRP, the plan approval application is filed, after that the job of IP is over. That's not the case, because the regulation provides the day this application for approval of the plan or for liquidation order is filed, after that, till the time this application is disposed of, this minimum fixed fee provision will not be applicable. And for this period, it will be a COC which shall decide the fee. I think this should not have been there. This minimum fixed fee provision should have been extended till the date the application for approval of the plan or application for liquidation is disposed of. Because during this period, whether all of the duties and responsibilities of IP is not there, is he not supposed to keep the company as a going concern? Is he not trustee of the assets of the company? Is he not trustee for the stakeholders? Is he not doing all the compliances? Is he not subject to the regulatory compliances? Is he not answerable to the regulators and the government? And in between, number of litigation which has already started, is he not going to defend all those cases, whether against him or against the corporate debtor or by the corporate debtor? I think the responsibility and liabilities are increasing during this period. So therefore, the minimum fixed fee provision should have been extended till the date of the disposal of the application. It should not be left at the mercy of the COC that they will decide.
अनिल सर, हार्डली हाफ एन आवर इज लेफ्ट नाउ, तो आपकी क्या गाइडेंस है? दो बातों पे प्लीज थोड़ा सा एनलाइटन करिए हमारे ऑडियंस को, जो स्मॉल एंड मीडियम एंटरप्राइज है, कि वेदर दे शुड गो फॉर आईपी, नंबर वन, और वेदर आपने कहा कि दो बोर्ड पे ट्रैवल करना इज समथिंग वेरी वेरी डिफिकल्ट नाउ, एंड व्हाट इज योर फाइनल वर्डिंग ऑन दैट?
See, the first I am saying that even if an individual IP gets 3 cases, even if, or he gets 4 cases, and let us see that his monthly income from this particular profession is 5 lakhs of rupees because of some cases. No, क्या वो 5 लाख रुपए में इतने एम्प्लॉइज रख सकता है, एक ऑफिस बना सकता है, सारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट कर सकता है कि जो 5 या 6 केसेस हैंडल करने के लिए उसको जो कंट्रोल एंड कस्टडी वाला भी आदमी चाहिए, उसको क्लेम वेरिफिकेशन वाला भी चाहिए,
Exactly.
उसको CIRP के पूरे मिनट्स और पूरी जितने भी सब कम्युनिकेशन है वो भी चाहिए, और उसके बाद अकाउंट्स भी उसको बनाने हैं या बनवाने हैं किसी से, लॉयर्स के साथ इंटरेक्शन करना है, लॉयर्स को फीडबैक देना है, उसको डॉक्यूमेंट्स देने हैं, उसको सारे रिकॉर्ड्स IBBI को देने हैं, IPA को देने हैं। ये सारे काम करने के लिए कोई आदमी 5 लाख रुपए की भी अपनी इनकम बना लेगा तो क्या उसके पास इतने खर्चे होंगे कि वो सारे खर्चे निकालने के बाद 2 लाख रुपए महीने का बचेगा उसको? ये
I have got my serious doubts.
यस सर,
और
I have got my serious doubts.
साथ में सर जो डीसी का यानी कि सिर पे डंडा रहेगा, वो मदान सर जो बार बार कहते हैं सर, उसको भी कंटीजेंट लायबिलिटी को भी डिस्काउंट कर लो आने वाले टाइम में।
आज हम कोई भी केस,
he will go into depression.
no, इससे पहले जैन साहब, इससे पहले बहुत सारे चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स भी डिप्रेशन में थे। लोगों ने सोचा था पिछले 3 साल में हुआ क्या है, जब से 2000 GST आया, GST के बाद कितने चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स हैं जिनकी प्रैक्टिस बढ़ी। पहले कोई सेल्स टैक्स की पहले कोई सेल टैक्स की प्रैक्टिस करता था, असेसमेंट कराने जाता था, कोई इनकम टैक्स की प्रैक्टिस करता था, असेसमेंट कराने जाता था। आज ना तो सेल टैक्स की प्रैक्टिस बची, ना इनकम टैक्स की असेसमेंट कराने की प्रैक्टिस बची। आपके पास जो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट के पास बिजनेस क्या बचा है, खाली ऑडिट करने का या GST का ऑनलाइन रिटर्न जो है वो तो अकाउंटेंट भरता है सारे, और सारे अकाउंटेंट्स को ट्रेनिंग हो गई है। तो चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट का जितना बिजनेस कम हुआ है पिछले 5 साल में या 3 साल में, वो तो बहुत डिप्रेशन में है ही है पहले से ही। और ये तो एक तरीके का थोड़ा सा एक वो था कि सभी लोग इस तरफ शिफ्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहे थे। मैं सभी लोग तो खैर कह भी नहीं सकता, इट इज नॉट इवन 5% ऑफ द चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट जो इस तरफ शिफ्ट हुए हैं, पर ये मैं कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि जितने शिफ्ट हुए हैं ये भी वापस जाएंगे, काफी इसमें से वापस जाएंगे, क्योंकि कोई भी इंडिविजुअल 5 केसेस लेके उसके बाद अपना एक ऑफिस चला ले, ये मुझे वायबल नहीं लगता इकोनॉमिकली आफ्टर लुकिंग एट द फीस। जो आज की डेट में 1 लाख रुपए की फीस है वो पहले 3 लाख हुआ करती थी ऑन एन एवरेज। मदान साहब भी यही कहेंगे और सभी लोग जितने भी यहाँ पे एक्सपीरियंस्ड हैं, ये पहले 3 लाख ऑन एन एवरेज होती थी और आज वो 1 लाख पे आके रुक गई है।
ट्रू ट्रू वेरी ट्रू।
सर 1 लाख तो अब हो गई है, इससे पहले तो जो सर आप भी काम करते मैं भी करता हूँ, एसबीआई की जो बिडिंग जा रही थी 20-20, 30-30 हजार, 40-40 हजार, और कुछ बैंकों ने तो ये कह दिया कि पूरे सीआईआरपी प्रोसेस की हम आपको 2 लाख देंगे, 3 लाख देंगे या 5 लाख रुपए देंगे।
हाँ 3 लाख वाले बहुत सारे केसेस थे, लेकिन उसके बाद फिर फाइनली उन्होंने लूप होल निकाला था कि 3 लाख विल बी देयर कंट्रीब्यूशन, और अगर उसमें 5 बैंक है तब भी 15 लाख हो जाती थी। लेकिन आज 1 लाख रुपए की फीस के अंदर उसी में से आपको आईपी को देने हैं, उसी के अंदर से आप आईपी भी हैं, और उसी के अंदर अगर आपको क्लेम वेरिफिकेशन भी करनी है, यू कांट आउटसोर्स इट।
This will be treated as a maximum fees. I think this will be treated as a maximum fees in the eyes of COC, as it has been treated in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act in Schedule 4. The arbitrator fees has been fixed in this schedule. So all these, even court is also treating them as a final and maximum fees. So similarly, COC will treat this as a maximum fees.
So the only scenario is that I think wait and watch for some time. One, that there is not many cases in the market. Number two, there are 100 IPEs and it will go to 200 in another 6 months' time. And then all the IPEs will fight for those cases. And the number of cases would be just sufficient for these 200 IPEs. And the number of cases are not going to be increased in IBC. The first few years, in any case, we carried a baggage of last 30 years. And that immediately came into our lap. But now the number of cases which actually will slip to NPA, the first is the SURFACE is very clean and crisp now. Various judgments under SURFACE where the DM or the CMM powers of holding on to the police help is immediately available. The market has developed and the assets are sellable. There are investors who are investing in the stressed assets, and the assets are immediately sellable. So the SURFACE action is now reduced to almost 3 months. Earlier it used to be 3 years because of various stays. But now hardly there is any stay. The DM gives the order within 2 months. The police is also ready to help. There are so I still feel that the all smaller cases where the security-based financing, they will go to SURFACE. And the cases under IBC would be much lesser.
Much lesser.
Yes.
And there should be one more thing, there should be restriction on number of maximum assignments which can be given to one IPE or one agency, so that a fair distribution can take place. Instead of concentration.
That was already there.
That is already there.
That was already there. That the number of, see, like even if you go to State Bank of India, if you have already 3 CIRP, they will not give you 4th one.
And in PG cases also, maximum 7 cases they give at a time.
No, what I'm trying to say, based upon the number of members, now that was the number that was not correlated with the number of partners or IP agency strength or something. So there needs to be some reworked out, so that somebody is not too overburdened, somebody is not too under employed. So based upon the part, whether it was, I'm not sure, because I have not gone to that aspect, whether it was based on the individual IP versus IPs. So there may be some reworking out of that criteria.
In any case, sir, Anil sir, जो मैं आपकी बात से समझ पाया हूँ, in nutshell, you mean to say कि जितने IPs are thinking for going for the IPE work or something like that, you know, एक IPE बनाने में भी 10 लाख के करीब का खर्चा आ जाता है, and it has some running cost also. जो मेरे को बातचीत से लग रहा है कि इतना जितना हमारा खर्चा आ जाएगा, इतना तो शायद रेवेन्यू भी वहां से जनरेट होना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल हो जाएगा, until unless you have, your projections are such कि whereby you can think of earning 1 crore rupee in a year or something like that. They should wait and watch, because market scene, maybe because of SURFACE or maybe because of other developments, not many NPS coming into be there, is not very bright, and we should have a cautious approach as far as going for the IPE is concerned, or IBC business as an individual is concerned.
I think, as I said, that wait and watch, it should be the strategy. It is not really recommended that immediately everyone should make an IPE. Let us see how the committee of creditors starts preferring. Even if I have seen 10 IPs can get together and they can float an IPE, but it is very difficult that all the 10 can go together in life. They would have similar kind of mindset. I have even seen that today 4 people started an IPE, and after 3 months or 4 months, one person of them, he got a breakthrough and he got a relationship with some kind of NBFC. At that NBFC promised to give him 7 cases. He will break away immediately from that IPE.
Yes, sir.
So these are the kind of examples of humans. And so therefore, saying that 5 people taken together will become an IPE, so the survival of such collective effort is something which is subjective. So there has to be, like when we talk about PwC EY, there is one father and everyone is son. Everyone is son. So then it is surviving. When there are 4 fathers, and then it becomes difficulty that even if one person gets some break, he will break away. So it's again a kind of situation which everyone has a different circumstances in life. I'm saying that the profession is now down. It is only a service provider. As we were doing chartered accountancy practice, where we were working very hard and we were making a revenue which was just sufficient as a middle class family, as a slightly upper middle class. That is what is going to happen to the insolvency profession also. We should not expect anything more than a normal professional. That's what I want to conclude this way.
Thank you very much, sir. We are highly enlightened with your experience. मदान sir और Mr. Raman, आप अपने experience से कुछ add करना चाहेंगे? गुप्ता sir, आप भी जरा please इनके साथ add करिए.
मेरा
So
ये
that
मानना है, I think we are already off the track. जो agenda के हिसाब से हम discussion नहीं कर रहे हैं. अगर अब 25 मिनट जो बचे हैं बाकी, if we, in these 25 minutes, if we can take some questions from the participants, there might be a lot of curiosity among the participants to ask certain questions, and we are able to reply to those. This is my humble submission.
Yes, Mr. Maheshwari, you have raised your hands. Kindly unmute yourself and ask.
Sir, I have one question. One related financial creditor cannot become the member of COC, so he assigned his debt to the another CD or another ARC. Can he be the another CD or ARC can be become the member of COC?
There are 3 judgments on this.
No.
There are 3 judgments on this. In fact, the first judgment, which was Synergy Dure, and after that, it became a controversial subject. And then there are 3 judgments, which is very clearly saying that if a financial creditor is a related party, whatever the rights of the financial creditors were, that remains the same, even if it is assigned to any other person who is not related to the CD. So it is no. It is almost, it is certain that no.
Sir, in the basic doctrine of the Constitution, this is a culpable legislation. But you cannot do directly, you cannot do indirectly.
Yes.
So that
Yes,
is
you're
what
right.
Mr. Anil Goyal is saying, the same thing. The assignee cannot give, assignee cannot get what is one not available to the assigner.
But in Phoenix company case, it was held by the Supreme Court, sir. He can be the member of COC.
No, in Phoenix ARC, it was not said like that. No.
What was the
Member of COC is one part. Related party having will not have the voting rights. The member, they can become the member, but they will not have the voting rights like the original financial creditor.
No, I want to say the voting rights, sir.
No, Phoenix
No,
ARC
voting rights
also
will not be
doesn't say the voting rights would not be there.
Will not.
Okay.
be.
Thank you.
Even
very much.
Phoenix ARC also have not given the voting rights.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Megha, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Megha Shah. Megha, are you there?
Couple of more answers there, Mr. Abhishek.
Megha is asking, sir, please give some light on reconstitution of SEC where books of accounts are not available or books are older as it has to be constituted with all the creditors.
I don't think the books of accounts are relevant at all for constitution or reconstitution of committee of creditors. See, the committee of creditors is based on the claims received.
Yes.
And if the claims has to be verified, and the claims can be verified based on the various other documents also in case the books of accounts are not available. However, the government, the IBBI say that in case the books of accounts are available, then this is also one of the tests that you should conduct before you release the list of creditors. That you should also verify with the books of accounts. But in case the books of accounts are not available, then you can verify based on the documents attached by the claimant.
Read regulation 13 and 14 of CIRP regulations.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Alok Agarwal, please.
Sir, my question is about regulation 31A of the liquidation regulations. Amended regulation sub-regulation 1 says the liquidator shall constitute a consultation committee comprising all the creditors. And whereas section sub-regulation 3 says the liquidator may facilitate the stakeholders of each class, namely financial creditors in class, workmen, employees, government, etc. Where all the, my question is, if all the creditors are the member of consultation committee, then why there is question of representation?
The representation comes from the CIRP regulations, where
Yes.
it says that in case any class of creditor where the total numbers are more than 10, and in case everyone will come to the COC or SCC, it will become chaos. So they should come in the COC or SCC meeting through a representative. So if any class of creditor is having numbers more than 10 as claimants, they would be, the liquidator will provide them a platform where they will opt for they will select a representative, and that representative will come and participate into the meeting, and that representative also will vote based on the total voting share of that class of creditors.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, like in this, I have a question, sir. Yes.
Just a minute. Please read the 31A.
31A.
31A, 1A3, which the revised one. It says the liquidator may facilitate the stakeholder of each class, namely financial creditors in a class, workmen, employees, government department, other operational creditors, shareholders, partners, to nominate their representative for participation in the consultation committee. So there shall be one representative from each class. It has been provided in the regulation.
So why the word creditor is used in regulation 31 capital A, because unlike earlier, the stakeholders consultation committee also had a seat for the shareholders. Now the shareholders are not having any seat. So therefore the stakeholders consultation committee would be restricted to creditors only.
No, I'll say everybody will be there, but the voting rights will be there with the creditors. Representative of each class will be there, but voting rights will remain with the creditor.
Yes, Mr. Abhishek Gupta.
Yeah, good evening. So my question was in relation to what Mr. Goel mentioned a while back, that say if an IP entity decides to become an insolvency professional and take up an assignment, and one partner is assigned to that assignment, and if there is any disciplinary action, so we know how there are so many disciplinary actions that are happening today, then does the IP entity suffer, or is it that a partner who is assigned to that particular assignment, only he'll be affected by that?
No, my understanding from reading of all these regulations, number one, there are two concepts. One is suspension of an IP, the suspension of the registration of an IP. And the second is declaring a person not fit and proper. These are two separate actions of IBBI. If any one partner of the IPE is declared as not fit and proper, the entire IP, which the IPE is, that the entire IP would be ineligible to become IP, because this is the first requirement, that all the partners of IPE
should be fit and proper.
In case any one of the partner is not fit and proper, then the IP status of the IPE would stand suspended. Right. Alternatively, that partner immediately has to cease to be a partner, anyone who actually would be declared as fit and proper. So this is one part. Second part is that any partner is suspended for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that would not impact the IP status of IPE. That will only impact that the particular person would not be responsible for handling any case. This is my understanding, and I would like to, like anyone else, in case somebody else can add on this, because I am also not 100% sure about my interpretation. So I just need that if there is a consensus, then we can even convey to our audience.
I basically believe that, I basically believe that suspension can only be individual specific, cannot be entity specific. So it'll happen that way. Fit and proper, again, will affect the entire firm. But I think that we should wait. I'm sure a lot of clarification, possibly a comprehensive set of regulations for IP may come in due course to address many issues going forward.
No, what we have done, sir, what we have done in our agreement, in our LLP agreement, we have put in a clause that if a person would be declared as fit and proper, that would immediately cease to be a partner of the LLP agreement. That's one clause that we have added.
Yes.
And the other clause that we were supposed to add is the change in the object clause.
Yeah.
Change in the object clause. So, and also we have added that in case of any person whose registration is suspended, he would not be given any case for, signing or monitoring.
My thought, Mr. Anil Goel, is that eventually this will be more akin to what is provided in the Companies Act, where in case a director is not disqualified for various reasons, it will pan out like that, and the board will say you go out the same way. The IP may have to possibly ask the person who is not fit and proper to move away, and the IP overall will not be affected, because that goes against the grain of the whole system. I mean, you then don't feel like forming an IPE, because for one person the entire IPE get into a situation. I don't think there is a thought process behind the amendment, because it should be very close to what the Companies Act says. It will pan out like that.
Mr. Raman, I don't think the disqualification provision is applicable here. I understand that if a director gets disqualified, other directors do not get disqualified. But if a director does anything wrong against the interest of the company, if it does not comply with any of the provisions of law, then certainly it's the entire board who is responsible in such a scenario. Disqualification may be certain extraneous circumstances, reasons also. But doing anything against the law, entire board shall be held responsible. And same is the fear here. Because what Mr. Anil Goel is saying, I agree with that, but that will be implemented with prospective effect. In the past, whatever has been done, if any partner is held liable for those actions, whether other partners or directors can be held liable for that or not, my answer would be yes, they can be held liable, because under the code, under the regulation, the liability is joint and several.
See, the question of collective responsibility, especially in the context of a board of directors of a company, the decisions taken in the board is collective responsibility. An individual action of a director cannot become the collective responsibility, and the vicarious liability extends to all the directors. I don't think that is the intention. The question here is that you are talking of a particular situation where in this context, even if there is an IP is there, there's a designated partner. A designated partner committing something which is violates the code of the regulation, how do you hold the entire IP responsible?
Because sir, I
the
think
designated,
IPE.
1 minute, the designated partner is running the process, right? Now, if a designated partner is running the process, is it correct to hold the ensure that the entire, all the partners of the entity is responsible?
Because
That will be very
IPE
tough.
has
How do
been
you work?
created.
Sir,
Sir, I
here
think IPE
the
has been
basic
created.
thing is, sir, the IP entity is now the insolvency professional.
Yes.
And one partner is acting on behalf of the IP entity. So the acts of that partner will definitely affect the IP entity, because the IP entity is the insolvency professional in this case.
See,
So
the
that is
question
why
is
I'm saying, yeah.
there are two kinds of liabilities.
No,
One is Mr. Anil Goyal rightly said.
I have a request to make. In fact, I made a request to Praveen ji in the morning also. I am sorry to say that my wife is waiting outside in the car and I may have to leave. And in fact, Praveen ji, I made a request to you that in case I would be allowed to go, otherwise it will be very difficult to go home.
You will get suspended from home.
And I would be declared as not fit
And
and
that
proper
would be
person.
in the later age of life, it would be most dangerous.
No, I would be declared as not fit and proper, sir.
जी आपकी वाइफ तो बाहर कार में वेट कर रही है, हमारी तो घर पे वेट कर रही है।
को अब दूसरे का काम ऐसे ही लगता है ना।
Thank you very much, Anil ji. Aapne, despite all this your teeth problem, speaking at a length, guiding us in such a manner, we always love to listen to you, and it is a really great privilege that people like you are with us in Delhi and always guide us, always help us. वो कहते हैं ना, you are a friend, guide, and philosopher. तो ये तीनों वर्ड्स भी शायद आपके लिए कलेक्टिवली बहुत कम होंगे. Thank you very much for giving so much time despite pain, the teeth pain and all this thing. Thank you very much. Chaliye. We are really obliged. Thank you very much.
In fact, this side is still swelled. You can see that you may be thinking that I have added weight, but this is swelling.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, Praveen ji.
Thank you, sir.
Take care, Anil ji.
Always cheerful. Thank you, ji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot.
Yeah. Just to complete the point I was making, somebody said that IPE is made the IP. Fine. IPE is made the IP for the purpose of the skills and the infrastructure they bring to the table. But the responsibility in terms of running the process will be of the designated partner. So the question is that it is not just to penalize the entire IP for that purpose. So I'm sure there's some clarification coming there. Because then, people would be afraid, like Anil ji very clearly said, to form an IP and take up work, because that could affect others who have not really contributed directly to the whole contravention that happened.
Ravind sir, इसमें मैं एक थोड़ी सी बात ऐड करना चाहूंगा. If we see our code of conduct also, what you're saying was there earlier, but when the revised code of conduct came into the picture, at that time, with their experience and with everything, because what our institute thought of, they thought of that when you're working together, maybe geographically separated or otherwise, you are jointly and severely liable, and many a times firms were doing consistently same practice for so many with so many malpractices with so many partners, and firm was continuing. Just to plug that particular loophole in the system, now they are holding, after new code of conduct in our the CA code of conduct, holding responsible to the firm also. Maybe that is the extension IPE be applied to there, or maybe I would love that your company's extension should be pointed to the IPE.
No, see, I'm sure representation will happen and clarification will be sought based on the concerns.
You can't.
So I'm sure something will come up.
You can't kill the institution itself.
Yes.
That cannot be the logic and
Yes.
intention.
Yes.
If they want to build the professional entity to conduct the CIRP process, and if they try to penalize the whole firm for the negligence on the part of one member, I don't think that would be the logical conclusion.
It goes against the grain of the whole structure.
Whole structure. It would Before it takes a start, it will get diluted itself from the very beginning.
जब
Yes,
गुप्ता सर ने
Vinekanji.
वर्डिक दे दी तो वी हैव टू सेपरेट सर वी सल्यूट योर वर्डिक एंड वी इनफैक्ट मैंने पहले भी कहा हम भी यही चाहते हैं जो आप कह रहे हैं और आपकी तो सर जुडिशियल के अंदर जो आपने कह दिया दैट वी कैन ट्रीट इट एज अ फाइनल वर्ड.
This is just only an understanding, because nobody can be once a government is trying to build an institution, to create a structure, institutionalize the processes, the entities who conduct the processes, they will not be so harsh. They understand that there could be aberrations or instances of misfeasance or some negligence, but to punish an innocent person, other innocent person will not be in the good conscience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Vinekanji, you have raised your hands. Please unmute yourself. Vinekanji, are you here?
यस मैम. मैम ये पूछना चाह रहा हूँ कि क्या इन फ्यूचर इंडिविजुअल पर्सन कर सकेगा प्रैक्टिस आईपी की या नहीं कर सकेगा?
May I take that question?
Yes, कर सकते.
इंडिविजुअल प्रैक्टिस तो रहेगी अलाउ.
Yes, individual practice कर सकते हैं. See, let us understand one thing. Like somebody said in the beginning also, that if you look at the major countries in the world, it is still the individual IPs who are, running the process. Corporatization is limited to a few countries, which are the smaller ones. It is all mentioned in the discussion paper that came out before this happened. Now, the point is that what could happen is that, see, as an IP, what we always say is that our job is to ensure that we follow the code and regulations, right? And ensure that the corporate data remains a going concern. That is the broad concept of the whole code and the regulation. Safeguard the assets and maximize the value. Maximization of value is a process that you undertake along with the COC in place, right? Now, if you look at the separation of powers that is made in the Act, it's very clear that we are subject to restrictions only by the board. That is the IBBI. So you are a de facto MD of a company. The operations are under your control. Now, what many of the IPs do, how the IP profession has got into a situation, I'll tell you, because many of the IPs for every small thing go to the COC and take their approval, which are within their realm of duties and powers. And that is where a lot of issues have happened later. And subsequently, the IP has been in a situation where many times they've been asked, why you have not taken this to the COC? Operational matters, you are not required to take the COC. Now, you have to create your own standing among the COC members. You have to upgrade your skills. You have to build your capacity. And definitely you have a space in the spectrum to get your business. You may get the smaller assignments. The bigger assignments may go to IPE. Even the banks I've spoken to have no intention to, employ IPEs for the smaller businesses. They say that up to 100 crores assets, we would still prefer a individual IP than going to a IPE. It is for us to ensure that we develop our skill. We also demonstrate our capability. That is very important. For that, we need to understand our the separation of powers in the Act. It is not that the COC is running the corporate data. It is the IP who is running the corporate data, and the IP is responsible for the operations and the business of the corporate data. The COC is only required to approve certain things. So if you look at section 28, it is laid down, and there are other few sections where what COC is supposed to approve is laid down. So the question is that if you look at the flip side, there was a joint lenders meeting earlier, or the committee of creditors earlier in a different form, when the company was being managed by the promoters. The promoter was not taking everything to the lenders. The lenders were restricted to the issues that were governed by the agreement between the lenders and the borrower. The CD was managed by the promoter, and the COC is not the de facto board. That is what one should understand, because that is a mistaken notion many IPs have got. We need to clear that, and we need to take. It's very clear in the code also. When they say that the IP is subject to restrictions by the board, not restriction of the COC. Then again, if you see very clearly, 3 stages have been laid down. One is from the date of admission till the COC is formed. The IRP has to run the company. There is nobody else. He is the whole and soul till the COC is formed. His powers are restricted by the board and the court and the regulation to an extent. And from the time the COC comes in, the focus is up to the time the plan is approved by COC, the focus is on resolution. In that, he has to work with the COC and ensure that a successful resolution happens. Then the third stage, once it is submitted to the adjudicating authority, the IP has to ensure that, again, the operations of the company has take charge. We have to significantly understand section 23, subsection 2. It very clearly says that the IRP is bestowed with the powers of IRP under section 23. What was the requirement to ensure that he has powers to run the company when the COC, I would say, is in suspended animation? Because at that point of time, after the submission of the resolution plan and the IRP period is over, the COC can be activated only by 2 authorities. One is the adjudicating authority can say that the COC meeting be held, or the RP can convene a meeting. Again, it is limited to only approving the expenditure and operational matters. He cannot discuss any other process matters in that. So we need to understand these 3 very clear stages where IP then will know how to work. Then IP, the COC will appreciate what the IP is doing. And today, the issue of the creditors having some lack of confidence in the IP is corrected. So there we have to upgrade our skills. We have to actually, at certain stage, educate the COC that this is our role and this is what we are supposed to do. So the point is that if we don't do that, because very few people realize that post submission of the plan, again, the RP is like an IRP, because there is no need to have section 23, subsection 2, when the definition of RP under subsection and section 5, 27, I think is very clear that RP includes IRP. Then why they should specifically provide this? So there's a well thought out scheme where the separation of powers are defined, but it is for the IP to ensure that it is pointed out to the COC and very nicely and very diplomatically and say that this is how it is, and I will come to you for the purpose of approving my expenditure and also the appraisal of the operations and take approval of that. And that is very, very important, because otherwise I have seen that I have read many COC minutes. Every small things are taken to the COC, which is not required. So the point is that the image of the RP to an extent being affected also is to an extent is done by the RP himself. So we need to guard against that and ensure that we we ensure that we conduct ourselves in a dignified way, and also ensure that we do things as per the code and regulation, and appraise the COC that this is my role and this is your role. This is where we work together.
Thank you, sir. We'll take just last 2 questions. SP Gupta, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I have 3 questions. Just recently, it was told that in case of related party financial creditor, just it was explained that he can be member of the COC, but he will not have any voting power. My first question is, suppose there is only one financial creditor and CIRP was initiated by an operational creditor, and that financial creditor is a related party. If he becomes a member of the COC, then he will be the only member. And since he is financial creditor, so he has total control over the COC. And if he is not considered as COC member,
Mr. Gupta, the law is very
regulation.
Clear.
Law is very clear.
Only
Very clear.
creditors will be there.
Yes.
Law has provided only operational creditors will be there in such a situation.
In such a top 10.
Yes.
Yeah.
Law is very clear.
Okay.
Top 10
Okay,
OCs
sir.
are there. Yeah.
Thank you. It means he cannot be considered as
Yes.
COC
Law
member.
is, regulation is very clear on it.
Okay. My second question is, as per Rainbow judgment, Madan sir was telling if any state tax has not been considered in the resolution plan, so adjudicating authority can reject the resolution plan. It means whenever a information memorandum is prepared, will be prepared and submitted before the COC for inviting resolution plan. By that time, it must be all those members must be the member of COC, because they have been given the status of
all the secured
financial
all the secured creditor need not to be the member of the COC. There may be secured operational creditors also.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Number one. Number two, now with the amendments which have come, email has to go to all the creditors, and as per regulation 36(2)(h), all the litigations have to be form part of the information memorandum. So it is the time for preparation of information memorandum has also been extended from 54 days to 95 days.
Correct.
So these are the processes which have been taken care of to take care of such situations that these kind of issues do not arise.
Suppose I have a situation, sir, I have a situation where income tax department have attached, put lien on the bank account of the CD. So whether they can be considered as financial creditor or operational creditor?
Gupta ji, they are not at all financial creditors. They are absolutely operational creditors. Law is absolutely clear on it. और थोड़ी सी आप मेहनत करोगे तो लियन उनका आप 2 या 3 मीटिंग के अंदर हटवा भी दोगे.
Another legal aspect which comes whether attachment per se would create a secured interest, because attachment is not for preventing the disposal of the that attached property. Whether attachment by itself would create a security interest in terms of section 3, section 30, subsection 31, that itself is a big question.
It is, sir, absolutely not create a secured interest. What you was enlightened by Mr. Anil Gupta ji and Madan sir also, that in that case there was a specific provision in the case of Rainbow, as far as particular those state dues are concerned, whereby non-payment security interest was created.
Yes, because if you are
nothing like that is there.
If a charge is created and the procedure prescribed there for creation of charge in the particular statutes, for example GBET, and if you have followed that process, then only you will be come into the category of secured creditor, if the law particular law provides. Otherwise even in that sense, you strictly you cannot be merely because you are having a attachment per se, simply attachment for recovery, securing your recovery, you may not become a secured creditor unless a charge is created.
Yes,
by operation of law.
Manoj ji, my last question is,
let's give opportunity to others. It's already 9:05.
Yeah. Gupta ji, you have asked 3-4 questions and all has been answered. Rashmi ji, you take care, please.
Can I ask one question only?
I have also to go somewhere.
Yeah, everybody's
Saturday.
Time is the essence. Time is the essence in pura IBC mein, and we have just cut short our introduction procedure and started the meeting ahead. Mr. Ashok Juneja, last question from you, and then we'll just conclude.
Please. Sir,
जुनेजा जी अपनी फेस दिखा दो, बहुत सारा आपका माथा ही नजर आ रहा है.
अच्छा ये लो. My query is for you only.
Mr. Ashok Juneja is also a very high practicing professional as an IP also, as an advocate also.
Thanks, Manoj. My only observation is that section 21, subsection 2, specifically says that if the financial creditor or if there is any relative of CD, he cannot have the right to representation, participation, or voting in the meeting of committee of creditors. If he cannot participate, represent, and vote in the meeting of committee, then how can he be a member of the COC?
He can observe the proceedings. He can observe the proceedings.
No, he cannot observe, because he says, the section says, section 21, subsection 2 clearly states that a relative of corporate debtor shall not have any right of representation, participation, or voting in the meeting of the committee.
What we are saying, he can be an observer, simply an observer of the proceedings.
But sir, he cannot participate.
That
He
is
cannot represent. He cannot represent.
Participation means he cannot communicate. He can observe what is happening. That's all. To
And
safeguard his
representation means-
interest, he will not be speaking there.
Sir,
And
my only point was, sir, my only
in
point
terms of
was-
section 24, notice has to go every member of the COC, including a related party.
No, he does not say 24, doesn't say that relative party ko jana chahiye. He says only, even including ex-directors, directors ho jayega, 10% jiska operational director usko jayega, but he never says it goes to the relative party. He never goes.
There
Section
is a
24.
regulation also which says that related party will be entitled to a notice of COC meeting.
Sir,
If you, I am not
Regulation
recollecting the
24,
form.
so Regulation 24, subsection 3 speaks about this, but it does not say this regulation that it will go to a related party. It does not say that. It does not say that.
If
Related
related
party is
party is
not
a
what they are.
financial creditor, then matlab, if he has lodged his claims and if he's a financial creditor, then he will be a part of the committee, but he will not have any voting powers, as far as I think.
No, but sir, this prohibits representation also, participation also, and it says notice will not go to that. It does not say that a notice will go of the meeting will go to the relative of the party. It does not say at all.
Junaida sahab, I am with you on this.
Yes. Junaida ji, we respect your saying. You are highly experienced. Vrinder sir, ho sakta hai, sometimes we miss also, and we all will have a good relook on it.
There is one form constitution of COC is there. Some form is there, which I am not recollecting. In the last column, it is written that they will be informed. In one of the orders, I have dealt with this aspect. Whether they need to be, otherwise, if they, what would be the consequence of making in a part of the COC if they don't get the notice itself?
No, sir, Regulation 24, subsection 3.
We will, that I am not recollecting the. There is a form. I will tell you
in the form also that your lordship, that form also.
But
note which says
Gupta sir, as a
column,
practice, we
that-
have never allowed related party to be a part of the COC.
Yes, me also.
And what we have done is that at the most, if there is a requirement, we have invited him to be an observer, as you rightly
Yes,
said.
invited.
As and when necessary.
That
As
is
and
the
when necessary.
invitation.
But
Yeah.
it's not mandatory.
But
it's
what
not
we are saying is that
mandatory.
he cannot claim it as a right.
Yes,
Manoj ji, I
that
would
is what
like
we
to
are
leave.
saying.
Manoj ji, I
Invitation.
would like to
You
leave
invite
this.
him.
Sir,
To
it
give
is
a-
Sir, Junaida ji, thank you very much. We have a great respect for that. Rashmi ji, आप करिए, मैं एक happy note पे ending करना चाहूँगा. For we all are professional brothers and sisters. तो आप please say thank you to everybody, and I would like, sir, ये क्या कहते हैं? Because I got something very good for an individual IP to share with my brothers and sisters.
Sure, please.
Thank you, sir. Very nice seminar.
Okay. Rashmi ji, should I continue with your kind
Yes,
permission?
yes.
Okay, a lot of discussion was going on whether we should go for the IPE or not. Consensus was emerging that if an IP is having a good infrastructure, he can be he's as good as an IPE. It actually happened with me hardly a month ago. One bank approached to me, quite big bank. They said to me that you will take care of this account, and we need to appoint, propose an IRP also, and we need to file against 3 grantors under Section 95 application also. Against script, you have to file Section 7 application. It was before coming of this particular regulation whereby this minimum fees was decided. What fees they agreed with me, since naturally as far as script was concerned, I offered my services to them. As far as personal grunter services are concerned, I requested one of my colleague who is not part of my IP, being an independent person, proposed his name to be there. And now see the consequences. उनकी जो पीजी की अपॉइंटमेंट थी वो तो 1 महीने के अंदर हो गई, और उन तीनों से उनको जो फीस मिलेगी that will be more than what I be getting. And as far as my appointment as an IRP for that particular CD is concerned, it is hanging in the like a pendulum, and it may take, I think, 6 months, year, 2 year, 3 year. So meaning thereby, I would like to say that it is also sometimes very good to be an individual IP or an independent IP, not being a part of the IPE.
मनोज जी, फॉर योर नॉलेज, पीजी टू सीडी वाला मैटर जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जिसमें स्टेज लगे हुए थे, दैट इज कमिंग अप फॉर हियरिंग ऑन 2nd of November at top of the board.
2 नवंबर। तो सर एक जब थैंक यू वेरी मच, आप मार्ग हमेशा पीजी से सीडी में एनलाइटन करते हैं, तो लास्ट में अगर एक आधा मिनट लगा के कुछ वर्डिक का एक्सपेक्टेशन नहीं बता दे तो वी ऑल बी मोर एनलाइटेंड।
अगर ये मुझे पता होता तो फिर मैं तो
इन योर ओपिनियन, इन योर ओपिनियन।
नहीं, इन माय ओपिनियन वर्डिक्ट तो नहीं आएगा 2 नवंबर को। इट विल बी रेफर टू ए लार्जर बेंच and then larger bench will hear this matter. This is my view is, and I hope I'll be right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We had a very much lightning session, and in spite of Gupta ji ki itni tabiyat kharab hone ke he was supposed to go early, but we all kept him here, hold him here, and now I'll ask Manoj Anand ji to just extend vote of thanks to all the speakers and conclude the meeting.
रश्मि जी, मैं वैसे भी बहुत ज्यादा बोल रहा था, नेक्स्ट टाइम प्रवीण जी मेरे को अपने साथ नहीं बैठाएंगे। In our team we should have asked someone else. In any case, when you have given me this responsibility, it is a great honor, absolutely great honor that we get enlightened by Mr. Madan sir, we get enlightened by Mr. Anil sir, and we get enlightened by Mr. Gupta, and in fact Mr. Raman also enlightened us a lot. And Rashmi ji, you coordinated everything so well. Juneja sir, ab aapki photo sahi nazar aa rahi hai. Now we are able to see it properly, and thankful to Juneja ji also. He also as far as related party is concerned, he has been also able to add something to our knowledge, which Madan sir has been seconded it also. With this vote of thanks, I thank you very much to everybody. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.